Hello and welcome back to the Kid Code Project. Before we start, I want to say thank you to everyone who has viewed and clicked on the like. I have appreciated that very much. It helps a lot. If you have been subscribing, thank you so very much because your support is what keeps this thing going. If you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button below and you can join up with us and see what else is going on before anybody else does. Now, with that said, and all the thank you going out to you, let's start this video. What we're going to do now is I want to talk about two things real fast. One is debugging, which sounds strange. And two, we're going to play some more with some properties and we're going to actually create a video game called The Maze. Alright, so let's talk about debugging. And we will begin by creating a new project. We're going to have The Maze and debugging working together during this video. We are going to create it. What do we want to call it? Maze Master. Accept the default. Go. Okay, let's talk about debugging. You have probably heard about programs being buggy or a program has a bug. In fact, there's a magician that has a TV show now. Can't remember the guy's name. But he actually goes around pulling these tricks on people, and one of them was where he was working at a cell phone store, and a guy brought his phone in that was acting up, and he was opening it, and when he did, he dropped a cockroach, right, tricking the guy to think that basically his phone had a bug, right? Kind of funny, actually. But what is a bug? All right, just like I've told you before, programmers name things very strangely, right? Like the carrot leading the donkey and a carrot on your screen. A bug in real life is something that's very tiny, difficult to detect, and is a huge nuisance if it's in your house. Well, a program bug is similar. It's usually very small, difficult to find, and is a real nuisance in your program. That's why it's called a bug. Bugs can be all kinds of things. You can mistype something and create a bug. Math wrong and create a bug. And that one gets me a lot. If you create a formula in your program and the formula is set up wrong, and in the beginning you may not see the problem. And then later, people are using it and they're getting all these strange answers and it's wrong because you have a programming bug. So what is the debugger? Well, let's double click on the form here to go to the code page. Remember, double click, creating the code page, and let's create a bug. Now we showed you this before about IntelliSense showing you problems that you have, right? We know that message MSG box, right? Oops. Okay, here we go. This is perfect. I just created a bug and didn't mean to. Okay, we know that message box creates a message box that pops up, and it has the text that it shows, right? So, if we were to press, this is the load event, right, for the form. So when a form begins to load, this happens before you actually see the form, right? So let's press F5, and I'll show you the message box. Okay, debugging, boom, text to show. Okay, well, now the form shows, and we'll close it. Now, I've also showed you where the IntelliSense will show you the blue wavy line if you've actually made a bug. Okay, I'm going to hit the escape button so like we're kind of going to accept it. And there it is. We got this wavy line right here. That is the IntelliSense telling you that it knows you have a bug already because it doesn't know what MSGBO is. Right? I guess MSGBO would be like the male version of Chinese food. I don't know. Anyway, it's wrong, and it's a bug. That's the cool thing about IntelliSense. It tells you that you already have a problem, and it will not let you run the program. If we try pressing F5 to debug, it's going to come up and say, hey, you got problems. There were build errors. Would you like to continue? It's the last run, a successful build. Excuse me. Oh, this pollen. No, of course not. There. So the compiler already found that bug for you. Now, if we put the X back into it, it says, hey, I know what that is, and it's fixed. But I see some other problems with this code. First of all, this isn't a real sentence because there's not a period. That's a bug. The first letter of the first word of a sentence is supposed to be capitalized. Okay, that's 2 bugs we fixed. And this is not how you spell the word show. S-H-O-W. Now, we have solved those bugs, right? Okay then. So let's do this. Now, I'm going to create a lot of problems just to show you how this works. Oops. Paste. 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 Now I'm going to number them so we know which ones we're looking at. Now, you may notice that when I do this, it has this. In order to get out of that bracket area, the parentheses area, you can hit the escape button, like I just did, or you can just click somewhere else. Okay. Now we have text to show 1, 2, and 3. Now let's create some bugs. Remember when I told you earlier that if you're going to show text, you have to put it in quotations, just like in the book. Quote, somebody said something. Same thing in programming. Quote, show this text. So what happens if we don't have quotations? Well, it's telling us already you got a problem. Okay? Let's get rid of the G. Okay? And let's get rid of that. Now, we know we have 3 problems. Okay? But let's look at what's already happened. The compiler has already found bugs. And they're down here. Did you see how I grabbed a handle and pulled this up? If you pull it up, it will show you that you have 3 errors, bugs. The first one, string constants must end with a double quote, right? A string, I'll get into that later with value types, but basically a string is characters, A, B, C, D, strung together in a sentence, right? And if you double click on it, it will actually take your caret to the problem and show you the problem. Now this is very cool if you are not looking directly at that area, like you have a lot of code, and you don't know where it is, right? So in fact, let's do this. Okay, we try to compile it. No, there's errors. Here it's telling me the errors, but see, I don't see the screen now, so I don't know where the error is. Double click on the error and it would take you straight to the problem. Very useful. And then you look at it and you go, string constants must end with a double quote. Here's a string, it's got to end with a double quote. There it is. And you see that error has disappeared now. See, now it's 2 instead of 3. And the squigglies are gone. So let's go to this. It tells you that the bracket was expected, right? And here you could do something cool because it already knows what you need to do. Insert the missing bracket. Click. Problem solved. 1 error is gone. I mean 1 error, 2 are gone, 1 left. And it's this one. Let's double click on it. It says MSBOX is not declared, and that means basically the compiler doesn't know what you mean. Okay? You don't know. It doesn't know what you mean. It thinks that you meant list box. That's something else I'll tell you about later, but that's not what it is because we know that we really wanted a message box. So we can look at the code and say, what's wrong? Oh, the G's missing. And you click some away from it, your errors are gone. That is the benefit of a debugger, okay? It basically exterminates the bugs. Now, here is something else. There are 2 ways you can run the program. You could go to the debug F5, okay, which is what we typically do, and you just press the F5 button and it runs it, but it's running it in debug mode, okay? And what that means is that the compiler is actually running the program and reading every single line, looking for problems as it's doing it. That means 2 things. 1, it helps you solve problems that you get, and 2, it runs slower than it normally would because it's doing all this extra stuff for you. When you have completed your program and you don't want to run it in debug anymore because you know it's good, it doesn't have any more bugs, you won't send it out as in debug mode. You will send it out as a normal program file. and it will run faster. Okay, so keep that in mind as your programs get bigger and you're writing it and you're correcting your code. When you're running it in debug, it's running slower than it will when you release it to the people who will use it. Okay, keep that in mind. Because small programs, it doesn't matter, but if you're writing a big program like a video game program, it's good to debug it and then run it in normal mode to make certain it runs fast enough in normal mode. I hope that makes sense. Alright, I'm going to pause for just a second. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. Sorry about that. Now, we've got all of that worked out, and I've explained the debugger to you. And as you can guess, we're going to be using a lot of the debugger every time we run a program. In fact, what you want to do is when you create a little bit of code, okay, let's just do some other code here. Let's do form. Wait, am I still in debug mode? Yes, I am. Stop debugging. It's smarter than me, as always. Okay, let's write some code. I want to show you another cool thing about IntelliSense, which is, see how the M and the B are capitalized? That's the way it's supposed to be, right? What happens if you don't do it? As you type, the IntelliSense system corrects it for you. I love IntelliSense. What was that my son was singing this morning? Boo, wabby, boo. I think that's what he was saying. Okay, now I am going to actually cut it and enter, so I'll get a space here, and I want to paste it here. Now, what I'm going to show you is that you will always be debugging, right? So what I want it to do, the program to do, is I want it to pop up a text box and say text to show 1. I want it to pop up and say text to show 2. I want it to pop up and say text to show 3. And then I want to pop up and to go boo wabby boo, right? Not make the sound, but show you the text, the words. Alright, so what I've done here is I created this. Anytime you create code, a full line of code, always debug it immediately. Don't write a lot of code and debug it later, because you'll be fixing problems and it gets confusing in your head, right? So as you add a line of code and you think you got it right, F5, it takes a few seconds, right? Remember, I want it to be text to show 1, text to show 2, text to show 3, and then boo wabby boo. Text to show 1. Uh-oh, boo wabby boo is not in the right order. Now it's text 2, now it's text 3. It's wrong. Since I ran debugging, I know that it's wrong. So I select it, I right click, I cut it, I right click again, and I paste. I'm going to get rid of that line. Good point. You see this space right here in between these and this space here? It doesn't affect your code. You can have a bunch of lines or no lines. It's called white space because that's what it is. It's white and it's a space. It does not affect your code, okay? Not at all. But your code looks better if you clean it up and have it all kind of nice and compressed. Okay, so I ran debug. I added one line of code. I ran debug, and it was wrong because it was in the wrong order, right? Text 1, text 2, text 3, boo wabby boo is what I wanted, but it wasn't right. It was text 1, boo wabby boo. So I moved it. Programs run in order, right? Excuse me, like we talked on earlier videos. So now I know it's going to be text 1, text 2, text 3, boo wabby boo. How do I know? Debug. Text to show 1, text to show 2, text to show 3, boo wabby boo. It is correct now. That is the wonder of debugging. So every time you write one line of code and you think it's right, debug it, check it, move on. That way you know as you're writing your code that it's perfect up to what you're writing now, and then you debug and it's perfect again. Right? Don't write a lot of code and debug it later. Trust me. Okay, I'm going to delete it. Now, with that said, I think we've covered debugging enough for this video. We're going to be debugging basically in every video going forward because that's how you write a program. But I want to show you how it worked. Alright, now what we're going to do, we're going to create the Maze Master program. It's a video game. And all we're going to do is we're going to be setting properties of tools that we put on the form, and we're going to write one line of code. Okay, so here's how it works. I'm going to make the form a little bit bigger, and I am going to move my camera. I am going to change some of the properties of the form, right? I don't want these things up here, right? I don't want the words. That one is, what is that property called? I think it's called cancel. Cancel button. Let's see. Like I told you before, if you don't know how it is or how it works, play with it. You can't break it. Boom, boom, boom. Layout. This is a button. Control box. That's what it is. Control box. We don't want that. I remember this because I found this a long time ago. All right. Double click on it. Turn false. Now look at that. The buttons are gone. Pretty cool. Now, the form 1, I don't want it saying form 1. Remember, that's a text, I think. Text to show or something. If you remember, call me and tell me. Kidding. Text. Let's call it Maze Master Level 1. We'll add more levels later. Oops. You see that bug? Master should be capitalized. Okay. We'll add more levels later in different videos as we go on. Now we have we have everything set up. Now, what we're going to be bringing in is 2 labels, one to say start, one to say end. And then we're going to have one label that says winner, and we're going to have another label that says you lose. Okay, so that's 4 labels, right? Let's bring in labels. Label. Now, let's set this label up the way we want it. Let's make this one that says start. So let's change the text of the label to oopsie start. Okay, and I want it to be what color? The fore color is the color of the text. The back color is the color behind the text. Remember that. Coral. Oh yeah, that's cool. And let's make it a little bit bigger. 14. And let's make it bold. Cool. Can you hear that? That is my oldest son in his bedroom. Over there. Playing some video game. He is so loud. I'm going to right click on it. Copy it. Paste it. And we're going to put it down here. Now, see those alignment lines that we talked about in previous videos? See how that look professional that looks? But let me show you something else that's cool. This is going to be the end, right? So we're going to change the text property to the word end. Oh, it's not in line anymore. What do? We just move it over till the alignment lines show it back up. Now, let's bring in a label for the winning label. This is what's going to show up when you win. Okay, so what was I doing? Oh yeah. Text. You win. Okay, and we're going to change the font. We want it to be, is there like a green? Actually, there will be. I'm going to show you a little trick. Okay, these, even though you have these colors here, you can actually change them to colors that aren't shown, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, what we're going to do is on form load, remember that event, we are going to change label 3 to color green. So let's label 3, right? It already knows what it is. Dot. Now here's a quick hint on how to do this. We're going to get into this much better more later. But if you want to do something with it, adjust its properties in code, type in what makes sense. I was typing in color. It says, hey, you got a back color, you got a fore color. The back color is the color behind it. We don't want to change that. We want to change the fore color, which is the text. So you double click it, it puts it in for you. Now if you put another dot, it gives you the options you can change it to, right? So fore color, oh, I'm sorry, duh. I'm going to teach you a new word. It's called assign. I'll be right back. Sorry, I gotta go talk to my son. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I had to go talk to my son. He was being so loud, I'm sure the neighbors were going to complain. Teenagers, what are you going to do? Okay, now, first of all, you can see that since I didn't finish my line of code, that the IntelliSense has got me the blue squigglies of what are you trying to do? It's kind of a new name. Anyway, I'm going to teach you a quick word here called assigning. When you change something, when you change a property, you are assigning a new value to it. Meaning if you want the label's fore color to be something else, you use the equal sign to assign something to it. So like this, label3 dot fore color equals, and we want it to be the color green, right? Color green. Enter. There, squigglies are gone. Now what's going to happen is when I press the F5 button to debug, the text for label 3 was originally black, but this line of code will say, okay, now going from now on, the fore color is going to be the color green. F5, and we'll see it. There it is. It's green. Yay! Oh, and here's another problem. How do you stop the whoopsie. How do you stop the program? There's no X. How do you do it? You can't get rid of it. What do you do? Debug. Stop debugging. We'll solve that problem in the code too. Okay, there. So now we know it's green. But I want it to be bigger. Real big. How about 25 or something? Boom, dum, 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 dum. Alright. You win. We'll put that down here. Let's copy this because I like the size of it. Paste it. Now this is going to be the one that says you lose. Let's change the text. Okay. And I want you lose to be red. Alright. So it's label 4. Right. Let's go back here. We can actually copy this and save typing a few keystrokes. Label 4, we want the color to be red. Select it. Alright, now let's press the F5 button. Okay, start, end, you win, you lose. You win's green, label 3 is green, label 4 is you lose is red. And we stop debugging. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to make here it is. We're going to set the visible property to false for label 4 and for this one too. Visibility false. F5 to debug. Boom, there it is. You can't see them anymore. Alright? Start, end. It's still there. And stop debugging. Okay. Now, to get away from this issue with the stop debugging thing, I think I will put the control box back into the form for now. Just for now. Where did I find that? What's the control box? Yeah, right there. Okay. Yeah. That way, when we debug from now on, you just click on X, get rid of it. Okay, now we are going to create our maze, and here's how we're going to do it. We are going to use buttons. I'm not kidding. Okay. What we're going to do is we bring in the button. We're going to get rid of the text. No text at all. See? No text. Now we are going to change the way it looks a little bit. And what was I looking for? Wait, I think that was it. Image, line, back color, background image. to set the flat style to flat. Okay, that takes all the weird contouring look out of it, but we are going to also, you see the border size, the border is the line that goes around it. We're going to set that to 0. Where'd it go? It's still there. It's just the same color as the form, and it has no border, so it looks like it disappeared, but it didn't. Let's make it a different color. Alright, color, back color. We are going to change that to, what looks like a castle wall. Nope, not dark enough. There we go. Now, I'm going to make it a little thinner, okay? Now I'm going to copy it because I like the way it's laid out. I like that it doesn't have a border. I like the color of it, and I like the flatness of it. But I'm also going to do this. I'm going to make it tall. But I really want the width of this one from here to here to be the same from here to here. So how do we do that? We click on here and we look at size. The size property, okay? 17 is how tall it is, right? And that means the width of this should be 17, right? So they're the same. It's not, it's 18. Okay? Now, the measurement from here to here is the same as this from here to here. So what are we going to do? Well, this is what we do. We are going to create a maze. So all you do is you move it to where you want it to be. Copy it again. Paste. Okay. Paste. Oops. Paste, and what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be creating a maze. Doing it this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, add some more to the maze, then I'm going to restart the video so you can see what it, and I'm going to do on and off like that instead of you having to sit here and watch me do this the whole time. Okay? Alright, be right back. Okay, here it is so far. I'm getting a maze built. The idea is to have them start here and find their way through the maze to the end. Okay, I'm going to add some more. I'll be right back. Okay, I've got some more added. The idea is I'm going to try to make it really difficult for somebody to come through using their mouse cursor, because if they hit the wall, they will alert the Minotaur and they will lose. So I'm going to try to make it a little tricky. I'm going to add some more. Be right back. Okay, I am back. Now, I made a really simplistic maze, okay? It's really simple. You can make it any way you want. You can make it as complicated as you want. You can even, if you want, get one of those books that have like mazes and stuff in it. You know, I remember as a kid you could use a pencil and kind of draw through the maze to find your way out. And you can actually use them to guide your layout, right? But for our purposes, what we're doing, this is good. Now, here's the whole purpose of the game. When the game starts, they will see the maze and the words start and end. F5 debug, like I always said. We're ready to debug to make sure. See what it looks like. Okay. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to start here and they're going to be moving their mouse cursor just to get around the maze. But if they touch the sides, any of the sides, right, you see how it changes colors? The enter event is firing, meaning that for each of these, the enter event is sending that message to our program saying, uh-oh, they've entered. We're going to use that event to make the player lose, because if they touch the wall of the maze, the Minotaur will see them, or whatever. Or they're laser beams. These aren't you know, maze walls. These are laser beams or whatever. But if they make it all the way through without touching the wall, and they come down here and they go over this, we're going to use the enter event of end to show you win. And if they touch anything else, they lose. Okay? Make sense? Real easy. So first of all, let's create not the click event for the label, the, what is it, on enter or something? Let's see. boom, enter. Okay. Let's get rid of the click. We don't need it. Enter, and which label is the one we want to show? If they get there, they will see label 3, which is UN. Label 3, dot, to see what we can do. We want to change the visibility property, right? Visible property. And we're going to use the equal sign to assign it. And we have true or false. We want it to be true, so they'll go, yeah, it's visible, right? True, it's visible now. Okay, let's test it. F5. For every line of code you write, test it. So we're going to go over it, and it's not working. Not good. Did we use the right event? Yeah, that's label 2. Did we use the right event? Maybe not. Let's go see. Enter. Mouse enter. Because we're using our mouse. Okay. Let's take the code we wrote and cut it from that event. Put it in this event and get rid of that event because that's not the one we want. See what happens when you debug, when you write one line of code? You fix a problem immediately. And boom, you win. That part of the code works. Okay. Now, how do we do the you lose? Well, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to double click it to get to the code page, but we don't want the click option. We want mouse enter. We learned that from the other one, right? Mouse enter, and we want, get rid of that, we're not going to use it. We want, I think it's label, what label number is that? Label 4. They touched it, so they lose. Label 4, visible, equals assigns it to true, so now the you lose thing shows up. F5 debug, right? And I think it's this one we did. Boom, you lose, right? Now, what we're going to do is we are going to put the mouse enter event on all of these buttons, right? But how do we know how many they are? Pretty easy. There's 3, 2, 4, 1. They're not in order, but it's basically button 1 through, highest number I've seen is 38, 39, 37, 39, 1 through 39, alright? Here's the easiest way to do it. You select the entire sub, private sub starting it. Here's our code, in sub, you right click it, you copy it, and you paste. Okay, this may look complicated, it's not. So let's change this to label, wait, nope, mouse button 1, mouse button 2. You see the squigglies? It's telling us that we already have a mouse enter event for button 2 because we have a bunch of them, see? There. Change it to 3. And as we change it, you'll see that the squigglies disappear because it goes, oh, I get what you're doing. You're changing it. Yeah, I am. Okay. I'm going to go down. 8, 9. All I'm doing is I'm copying 1 and I'm just changing the ID. So it's button 10, right? This is the event handler for button 10. Copy again. And there's 39 of them. I tell you what, I'm going to change these real quick. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the video so you don't have to watch me do all this because this is really boring. Alright, I'm going to pause it real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. What I did is I basically just copied one sub, which was a mouse enter event listener handler for button 1. It changes label for visible, which is this, nope, this one. You lose. If they touch the wall, they lose. And I just copied it and pasted it and changed the number so it becomes button 2, mouse enter, button 3. So we now have event handlers for all the buttons. It's from 1 through 39. All done. F5 to test it. In fact, we're actually done. Let's play. Okay, we can add timers to it later so it times how fast I can do it. We can add scores to it. We'll do those things later. Let's just finish this video up now by playing the game. If you come in, see how fast you can get. Go around. Boom, I win. Let's try it again. F5. Oh man, dang it. Try again. Okay. You see that problem? Ooh, what's going on here? Okay, I found the problem. Remember when I told you to debug often? I should listen to myself. Not only do we need to change the identifier here, we also need to change it here, right? Button 1, button 1, button 2, button 2, button 3. So I'm going to change these all real quick. And I'll get right back to you. Okay, I am back. And like I said before, the mistake I made was not only should I change the identifier here, I have to change it to match here, right? And this is what this code does. This is the mouse enter event handler for button 16. All of this stuff here is what the compiler wants, but it handles the mouse enter event for button 16. I had left it at 2 when I copied it, which meant it was firing all that code for number 2. That doesn't matter anymore. It's not relevant. So F5. Let's test them to make certain that they crash.